Hello, friends. This is Dr. Lily Woods, PhD. I am here to talk to you about our Forever Fit and Ageless weight release program for Body Harmonics. We have designed this program with everyone in mind that has struggled with losing weight, regaining weight, yo-yo diets, restrictive diets, excessive exercise. And we're going to tell you why a lot of those diets don't work and what we have done and designed in our program to ensure that you keep the weight off after you've lost it and that you turn back clock while you're doing it with longevity programming also. I'm so excited to tell you all about this. And so let's get. We consider this the future of health. Talk about contains cutting edge products and cutting edge methodologies that we use and therapies that really help you along your way. So one of the most important things that you'll learn about the whole phase of health and healing, and I always want to ground this with everything that we're doing when we talk about this. This is actually by Dr. Karen K.G., and she designed this model. She's an MD, and she really feels like I do that conventional medicine, while we can't live without it, is really failing at keeping people healthy. So these three circles, conventional medicine in the middle, functional neuropathic medicine in broader areas, and energy and light medicine at the top, really encompass what's happening in all of the healing areas. So conventional medicine, let's start at the bottom. Newtonian physics, gravity, everything that we know that's really reliable scientific studies that have been maybe created 50 to 60 years in the past. It's great at trauma, acute care, and performing life-saving procedures. We can't get by without it. It's critical. Drugs, surgeries, and vaccines. They're failing at prevention. And not only that, a lot of the drugs that we're using today have side effects that create other disease processes. And it's a constant cycling of, what am I doing? Am I getting a side effect from a drug, or am I sick? Our population is not healthy. Our population is not able to release weight, many times because the nutrition in our food, etc. And we're all struggling. So we really need to turn this ship around. So how do we do that? We start by reversing disease. We start by reversing disease processes. We address the root biological causes with nutrition, environment, lifestyle, emotional issues. And we also include the natural biological therapies. This is what functional neuropathic medicine and a lot of what our program is surrounded with our weight release. But then we add the element of quantum physics. When we get to the quantum, we start at molecules, protons, electrons, cell structures, all of the different things that make up human biology and what we know now, and the different nutrient processes in our bodies, like the Krebs cycle, et cetera, that really need to be operated effectively for us to process nutrition into our bodies and not to store fat because our body thinks we're starving, and releasing that weight when we need to. What we try to do with all of these others, and they're called energy and light, and everybody's like, oh, what is that? All it's really saying is that our bodies are made up of energetic processes. We process nutrient, we burn things, that's energy. So we're talking about that type of energy. And the light, we're all getting more familiar with red light therapies and everything else. And I mean, we're fed by the sun every day. Our circadian rhythm cycle is grounded in the light dark cycles of the sun and the night and the moon. So anyway, all of these are winding down from quantum physics and the realities that we know and are tested, and our biological processes at the cellular level are all things that we know so much more now. And so let's talk about how that applies when we're talking about staying healthy and staying fit, and how your metabolism affects weight release. So what's metabolism? Metabolism is the sum total of all the chemical processes that we were just talking about that occur in the body within each cell to produce energy and maintain life. The energy fuels the body functions and allows the body to meet the demands placed on it externally for energy daily. Our body, our mitochondria, produce something called ATP. And that ATP runs everything in our body. And we need that. And we need that process functioning effectively to burn calories, to release weight, to actually, go outside and walk, digest our foods. We need energy for all of that. The body's comprised of 37 trillion cells, 37 trillion. And those cells are in different states. Some of them are functioning cells. Some of them are dead cells, and we have to clear those cells out. Some of them are fat cells. Some of them are brain cells. We have 37 trillion cells that our body has. And every single one of those cells has thousands of mitochondria that within that cell is working through everything that it's doing, because I'm a brain cell and it has neurotransmitters, et cetera, and all those chemical processes. Each cell is a unit of life that needs energy in the form of macro and micronutrients, light and water. And that's how we sustain life. Without all of these processes working effectively, it's really to sustain whatever you're trying to do with your physical state. So clinical metabolomics is a very complex top-down system. It's a biological approach to understanding genetic, environment, and health paradigms. And it paves new avenues for us to identify clinically relevant biomarkers. So what's a biomarker? A biomarker is something that's unique to us. It's a marker, a biological marker. So for example, if I want to function well with my brain, I have to have a series of neurochemicals and neurotransmitters. I need norepinephrine, I need serotonin, I need dopamine, I need many other chemicals in my brain so that it's functioning effectively. If one of those chemicals is off, or if our body genetically can't process those effectively, or our mitochondria are struggling and damaged, we might not be able to do that. So knowing metabolically how to test those processes and understand what's working and what's not working, from our brain to our digestive systems, to our detoxing systems, to our lymphatic and endocrine systems, we learn about all of those things and how to test them, and then how to reverse those processes and what we can do to make your body function better. So when you look at the metabolites in your body and how they're being used and processed, and if detoxification processes are impaired, then you get a more global picture of that unique person. So I'm not going to say, oh, everybody go take this medication because that's what everybody prescribes for that. When it could be that metabolically, I cannot tolerate, nor can I consume or process that drug. Maybe it makes me sick, and that maybe sometimes they call an allergy. But knowing that, you can make a better decision. Things are that go into your body. Sometimes metabolic processing is a product of gene expression, which we're talking about. So there are 5 different genes that actually control mitochondrial function. And all of those markers, starting with the MTHFR, MTTR, et cetera, are all genes that are building blocks. And the bottom one feeds the next one and next one. So if the bottom one's impaired, which 40% of our population has that impairment in processing, then the other ones aren't working either. So it's a very, very important process, this whole process, making sure that our body's able to produce ATP and other substances that it needs. So if you have a genetic impairment in how that processes, then that nutrient doesn't get made into the next element, the methylated state of that element, so that your body can consume it and make it into the amino acids and proteins that it needs to go to the next level. So you can see that in the current levels in your blood, urine, stool, and we can tell what's happening inside your cell and its environment. We measure your hormones, your neurotransmitters, amino acids, vitamins, polyols, alcohols, organic acids, and nucleotides. That's a lot, and there's more. And those metabolites are the building blocks of the larger structure or its degraded product. So it goes up the chain, and then the detox process comes down. All of this encompasses what we talk about with clinical metabolomics. It's very complex. Our bodies are very complex, and the processes surrounding everything that we do is complex in our bodies. So let's talk about metabolism and all of the different systems involved in metabolism. So energy and human life. I mean, we cannot have life without energy. They're one and the same. So when I go back to, energy and light medicine, we're talking about how we produce energy in our bodies, right? We are energy consume, we metabolize, we burn, our bodies heat, and the processes create all kinds of chemical energy from carbohydrates, fats, and other substances. So we consume it, we process it, using our metabolic structures and our mitochondria into the body's energy currency, which is ATP, through our metabolism. And then we produce heat, carbon dioxide, and water, and chemical waste. And it goes into our lymphatic system, it goes into our liver, our kidneys, and it processes out of our body. So all of these processes that are going on in our body, the brain, cognitive, emotional status, which is another very complex process. I'm talking a lot about the brain already and the neurotransmitters, but if some of those are off, or maybe you're taking a chemical substance to, a serotonin reuptake inhibitor, for example, that's changing the way your serotonin is functioning in your brain. Sometimes that can be good. Sometimes that has downstream impacts. You have to know what it is when you take those medications. How does that change your emotional status? Your digestion. Digestion is the root of how everything gets into your body. If your gut is not functioning, if you have gut dysbiosis, which many of us have because of all the chemicals in our foods, all the hormones and antibiotics, et cetera, that we're consuming, all the preservatives and almost everything that we consume in the US, it's really damaging to our gut ecosystem. We also need to know the nutrient levels in the body. Are we processing vitamin A, vitamin B, the methylized forms, methylcobalamin, methylfolate, methylhydrofolate? I mean, there's so many different states of the nutrients in our body, but we can see that when we do some testing. Toxins in our body? Do we have heavy metals? Are we holding microplastics? Everybody does have some level of microplastics in our body. Everything comes in plastic. Everything is stored in plastic. And it's not surprising that, some of those structures we have a really hard time getting that stuff out. And glyphosate. Roundup is in everything. It's in every one of us, and it is really harmful to our bodies. Lipids and fatty acid profiles. These are also very critical. The fats and the fatty acids, which is a different way that fat is stored, are really important because our bodies need that to create almost everything in our body. So that's a very high level discussion about what's going on with metabolism in our bodies, but let's keep going. So when we do a functional nutritional assessment, I've already talked about a lot of these different things, and we're going to drill into this just a little bit more. Organic acids, what is that? When you do an organic acids test or an oats test, you get insight into some of our key metabolic irregularities. And you see a lot of the nutritional cofactors, which means I need this to make that, and how they're related, the digestive irregularities, which we were talking about, and how your cellular energy production is working. How is your neurotransmitter metabolism working? And how is your detoxification processes working? Through these tests, and we'll get into this in an upcoming slide, where it really digs into some of the different testing that comes out of this, we get to see my current state functioning. How am I doing? How am I metabolizing everything in my body, and what's the current state of my different levels of things? Oxidative stress. This level of oxidative stress indicates problems. And there's two key areas where oxidative stress points to those problems. One is your antioxidant capacity. How well am I able to fight things off that come into my body? And then also, if you think about antioxidants and being able, our bodies produce hydrogen peroxide, believe it or not, and fights off viruses and bacteria in our body. We need to be able to create that. If you can't, it reflects disease in the body, viruses and bacteria building up that we can't handle. And we need to do an intervention along the way to reduce the free radical exposure in our body. So free radicals very much quantum physics topic. That is a positively charged electron that's floating around in our body without something attached to it. And we need to flush those out. And there's a lot of different ways to do that. If you have a high level of oxidative stress, you'll see these free radicals in your body. And then we have amino acids. Amino acids are the building blocks for almost every protein in our body and a lot of the different structures that we make, their skin, our nails, everything. We build those with the amino acids that we're getting from our nutrition. Testing looks at every single one of the essentials and the non-essential amino acids, as well as the markers that may indicate how they're being digested, poor digestion, are we absorbing them? And also the metabolism of those amino acids. Are we getting them out of our systems? If the senescent cells, the dead cells, are sticking around, that's not healthy for us. We need to be able to flush those out. Fatty acids. This reflects our intake and metabolism of essential fatty acids, which are relevant to many processes, and they include inflammatory balance, cell membrane fluidity. All of our cells are water, they have a lot of water in them. And within the cell membranes, we need to make sure that we have water and fats that make those really pliable. Cell signaling is really important with fatty acids, and among others. The assessment for fatty acids determines the appropriate nutritional interventions to imbalances. So once again, there's a lot going on in our bodies, and I'm sure you've never heard of a lot of these topics discussed when you're talking about weight release. But without one or the other functioning and taking steps to make sure that they're functioning, how are you going to get to a state where when you get the weight off, you can keep it off because your body still isn't repaired. Anyway, nutrient and toxic elements. We talked a lot about detoxing your body and how we make sure that those toxic elements are removed so your body's not constantly in a state of fighting those. Mercury, lead, cadmium, arsenic. We talked about glyphosate. There's large key minerals like magnesium, potassium, zinc, copper that are actually very good for our body that helps determine our nutritional value and our ability to push out those toxic elements. So what about our function too? We talked about that a little bit. And always drink clean filtered water. It's really important. So when we talk about GI function, we test the GI through stool testing, and it provides immediate information for how our gastrointestinal health is working. So there's a lot of biomarkers, et cetera. And we look for intestinal inflammation and on the microbiome in your gut. So there's a lot that happens within your gut, like I mentioned before. If you have a leaky gut, which means that structure on the outside of your stomach, cells that pull together and make up your stomach and do the absorption, if there's a gap in there, if there's a little break in there, then what goes into your stomach goes directly into your blood. And so that's why it's so critical that you understand if you have that and take steps to repair that. It's called the gut-brain barrier. And if you get toxic metals, et cetera, moving through that leaky gut, it's very damaging for your system because it's not supposed to be there. So very high level on a lot of these topics. We're moving pretty quick on some complex information, but stick with me. So we talked a lot about gastrointestinal function. You'll be able to download this slide deck a little bit, but this is incredibly important to make sure that you are always building up your data and you understand how to build that biome and repair your leaky gut. There's a lot of very exciting peptides right now, like BPC 157 that is made from digestive enzymes, and also KPV. The combination of those two especially is very powerful for repairing leaky gut and taking steps to increase your biota, as well as pre and probiotics, which most of us that are concerned about our health take already. Amino acids, we talked about that. There's essential and non-essential. And once again, they're intermediary metabolites, and they help us build things. These acids are parts, they're short chains, and they build together to make the proteins and a lot of the structures in our body. The urea cycle and the urea cycle markers are byproducts associated with nitrogen detoxification in our body too. You probably heard of nitric oxide, nitric acids, and all of those are really your heart and cardiovascular function as well as your brain. And so we test for those and make sure that those markers are very well. And your is a very important for bones and joints as well, because if that's not working effectively and you're storing things, you might start getting inflammation or osteoporosis and crystalline structures in your joints. It's responsible, the urea cycle and your parathyroid, for making sure your joints are healthy and flexible and not starting to get rigid. So we manage that. And then also glycine and glucose, dietary peptide related markers. All of these things are related to building the proteins in our bodies. Acids, we talked a lot about this already, but malabsorption and dysbiosis markers are key. Cellular energy and mitochondrial markers are also key if we're functioning very well. And then your vitamins. How's your vitamin Bs, your vitamin Ds? There's a lot of vitamin D deficiency in our society right now. We don't get enough sun, and we don't get enough of that from our foods. And then also toxins and detoxification markers and oxalates. As you've probably heard, oxalates in our bodies are also very unhealthy for us. And we're not going to cover that topic today. There's a lot of YouTubers out there if you want to just search on that. Spend a lot more time right there, but this picture is a good description. We're rusting. We can't get things out of our body. We need to clear it up and clean it up. Fatty acids, dietary fat, important for nutritional markers and overall health. Many health implications if your fatty acids are off. We'll talk about that in a later episode as well. I want to get through a lot of these. Nutrients and toxin elements. You need to make sure you have a really good detox process. So once again, when you're talking about weight release, every single one of these elements needs to be understood, needs to be managed. You need to do some education so that you know how to understand all these different aspects of your health, and that it's a 100% 360 management of that. So that's a lot of information, and I just so thanks for sticking with me. So how does all of this allow me to be more healthy? So if we put it all together, your genetic testing, which is taking a swab in your cheek and understand how your genetics actually drive your nutritional deficiencies or don't. There's a lot of people that can't process vitamin Bs, and that causes a lot of problems in cellular mitochondria. They need certain levels of methylcobalamin and other methylated folates, etc., to function appropriately. Removing toxins, repairing leaky gut, promoting angiogenesis, and this is very critical as well. I talked a little bit about BPC 157 and KPV, and lots of other peptides promote angiogenesis, which is building things back, building back your blood vessels, repairing your bone loss, reversing osteoporosis. We can still do that. Doesn't matter how old you are, you can turn those systems back on. A lot of times they're just rusting and they need some tweaking and some support. It takes time. It doesn't happen overnight, but you can do that with hard work. And raising awareness of what you do well in your body, what you can't do, and leveraging those with your to make sure that you're doing the right things and making the right decisions for your body. Nutrients, peptides, frequencies, and your body can heal itself. And during the process, you actually learn how to do it. So you become self-reliant and being able to talk to your doctor at a different level and your other providers. So let's talk a little bit about metabolic enhancement molecules. We use a lot of these in our practice, and a lot of these in our weight release program. The one I'm going to talk about right now, I'm just going to touch on a couple, is methylene blue. I am a huge advocate of methylene blue. It is a very important substance that can go into your mitochondria and basically turn on the broken processes. It enhances your cellular health, boosts your energy, and supports your overall wellness. The toxicity of methylene blue is almost unreachable. You have to, everything that we do with methylene is very low dosing. It's very low. And you mean you have to do like 100 times what we're taking for it to be toxic to people. Mitochondrial function, like I was talking about, really improves your cognitive performance. Within 30 minutes to an hour, a lot of people that have first taken, I use troches, which are little things that you swallow, it's oral. They say, whoa, I'm feeling pretty good. I can think clearly and things are starting to go because it does something that's called electron transport. And that's very complex. I'm not going to get into it, but it donates electrons in processes that aren't working. So when you say that you have free radicals and positive, this one donates electrons in a different way. And it's a powerful antioxidant. It supports longevity. The antioxidant really comes from a part of the mitochondria where it's actually giving electrons into a process that's helping to feed a broken process where antioxidants aren't being created. So if you're seeking enhanced focus and productivity, athletes, optimizing recovery and endurance, and anyone looking just to feel younger and reverse the clock and reclaim vitality, it's great for that. It's backed by science. It's proven to stimulate cellular respiration, and it's trusted by a lot of healthcare professionals for safe, effective use. And once again, you need to take control of your wellness journey, but you need the education. You need to work with people that you like and that you trust. And this is one of the things that we use in our practice. So this is a weight release peptide that I really think is very important. This is also, you can get this injectable or you can do it orally. 5-amino-1-MQ. It's a very small peptide. Enzyme NMMT, which is involved in cellular metabolism and energy homeostasis. The higher you have levels of NMMT, it has been associated with obesity and type 2 diabetes. So as this inhibits and lowers that NMMT, thank you. It lowers those indicators. It enhances your fat. It in weight, reducing your fat size, and it heightens your energy levels. It also includes something called GLUT4, which increases your glucose reuptake and metabolic function. We talked about when glucose is taken back up, it's starting to go into the process of distributing it in the way that it's supposed to and out of your blood. I'm just going to keep it that simple. It also reduces adipogenesis, how your body makes fat cells and stores them. And I mentioned earlier how a lot of people have a lot of fat cells and they just store and store and store because they think they're starving, they're not getting nutrients. And this reduces that process. It also helps type 2 diabetes because it's lowering and having to burn that glucose, and it increases your cellular energy generation. So we use this in our weight release practice for the appropriate individuals. We do an assessment to make sure that this is right for you. We don't use this diabetes patients. You'd have to go and make sure you discuss that with your doctor. We like to bridge anything that's actually a medical condition. This is more for weight release for people that are not diabetic at this time. Okay, another one I really love is lactoferrin. Numerous harmful factors that affect the human body from birth to old age cause so many disturbances in our structure, our genome, cell apoptosis, and their degeneration. That basically means that our cells aren't working very well, and our cells are malforming, and malformed cells, those become disease and they can become even more, harmful things to our body. And it does cancer if we keep it going, our cells not being able to form correctly is cancer. So many factors leading to pathological processes like microbes, viruses, gene dysregulation, and immune system disorders are being helped by lactoferrin. It acts as a protectant, and it helps with an endogenous protein with a number of the favorable antimicrobial, viral, antioxidant, and immunostimulatory and binding DNA properties. So that's a huge mouthful. But basically, what it's saying is it's helping you to kill things that are bad for you stimulate your immune system, stimulate the things that your immune system uses, the antioxidants, and then also helps binding DNA, strengthens how your DNA is working. So it really controls your autoimmune response, and it has been shown to help with autoimmune regulation as well. So those are 3 great molecules that I talked about today. And I can't ever say enough about how important your vagal tone is in your body. If your vagal tone is not always being supported and it's degenerating, it infects so many different systems. So let's talk about what the vagus nerve is. And I have other YouTube postings about vagus nerve. Just go out there. I have a device that I love that's called the CES Ultra. I have a review. I work with Michael out in Washington, and he's wonderful, and that company's wonderful. But the vagus nerve is your 10th cranial nerve, and there is the parasympathetic and the sympathetic channel. The parasympathetic channel mediates your digestion, everything that's on when you're sleeping, your respiration, your breathing, your heartbeat, your intestines. I mean, almost everything in the way, moving your blood around your body, your brain states, your lymphatics. Everything is in the parasympathetic channel. And interestingly enough, on the sympathetic channel is your emotional regulation. So it's almost like, when you feel something, so it startles you, your heart starts beating, because they're connected. And, your bladder and incontinence, reproductive health, dental health, it's all related. You can access the vagus nerve in so many different places. So how you stimulate the vagus nerve is in many different ways. You can do it with humming. You can do it with gargling or tones. You can do it with the stimulator, which I'm showing the picture of here, the one that I use. You can put it on several different areas of your ear, and it pushes 100 hertz frequency, that tone through your body. It's also a vibration, and it helps stimulate those nerve processes and reinvigorate areas that aren't maybe functioning as well, and it raises your vagal tone. It has so many research studies about really helping with anxiety, migraines, PTSD, bladder functioning, you name it. So keep your vagal tone healthy, and you're healthy. I mean, it really is an important product. Once again, whole person programming for appropriate weight release. So that's all I'm going to talk about today. Thanks so much for joining me. This is Dr. Lily Woods, PhD. Love to talk to you about my program. Just stay in touch, and thanks so much for joining me today. See you soon. Bye-bye.